Origins and historical context. The story of Spartacus begins not with the grandeur of Rome but in the shadowy and untamed lands of ancient Thrace, a region that was as much a crucible of survival as it was a melting pot of cultures. Set against the backdrop of the late Roman Republic, Spartacus' origins and his ultimate rise as a symbol of rebellion tell a tale far richer than the mere fragments preserved in historical accounts. To truly understand Spartacus, we must first delve into the world he was born into, a world of tribal warfare, cultural hybridity, and the relentless encroachment of Roman imperialism. The Thracian roots of Spartacus. Imagine a rugged terrain carved by rivers and flanked by mountains, where the winds carried whispers of ancient battles and the songs of fiercely independent tribes. This was Thrace, a region stretching across what is now Bulgaria, northern Greece, and the European part of Turkey. The Thracians, a diverse and loosely connected group of tribes, were known for their martial prowess, their artistry, and their deep connection to nature and mythology. But to the Greeks and Romans, they were barbarians, a term that masked the complexity of their society. Spartacus' birth is shrouded in mystery, his early life reconstructed only through the lens of speculation. He was likely born between 105 and 100 BCE, possibly near the Strymon or Struma River in what is now western Bulgaria. Some sources hint that he belonged to the Mede tribe, a group known for their nomadic lifestyle and their fierce resistance to outside domination. This detail, though fragmentary, provides a glimpse into a world where survival often depended on one's ability to wield a sword or tame the land. The Thracians had a storied history of resisting invaders. They had clashed with the Persian Empire, the Kingdom of Macedon, and later the Romans. By the time Spartacus was born, Thrace was a volatile frontier, caught between the ambitions of expanding empires. It was a region of warriors and storytellers, where legends of heroes and gods blended with the harsh realities of life. These cultural roots would shape Spartacus, imbuing him with the resilience and cunning that would later define his rebellion. The encroachment of Rome. To understand Spartacus' path to slavery, we must first examine the broader context of Rome's imperial ambitions. By the 2nd century BCE, the Roman Republic had shifted from a regional power to a sprawling empire. Its legions marched across the Mediterranean world, conquering lands and peoples with relentless efficiency. Thrace, with its strategic location and rich resources, became a target of Roman interest. During the Macedonian Wars, 214 to 148 BCE, Rome defeated the once mighty Kingdom of Macedon, effectively dismantling the power structures that had long influenced Thrace. The Thracian tribes, divided and weakened by internal conflicts, became easy prey. Some tribes allied with Rome, hoping to maintain a degree of autonomy, while others resisted fiercely. Spartacus' tribe, the Mede, likely fell into the latter category, as they are mentioned in Roman records as a rebellious and troublesome group. The Roman campaigns in Thrace were brutal. Entire villages were razed, and thousands were captured and sold into slavery. The Roman economy, heavily reliant on enslaved labor, saw these captives as a valuable commodity. Spartacus, a young man in his prime, was likely swept up in one of these conflicts. Whether he was a common soldier or a tribal leader remains unclear, but his capture marked the beginning of a journey that would lead him to the heart of the Roman world. A captive in a foreign land. Slavery in the Roman Republic was a complex institution, deeply embedded in its social and economic fabric. Enslaved individuals came from all corners of the empire, their fates varying widely depending on their skills, origins, and the whims of their owners. For Spartacus, captivity was a stark contrast to his life in Thrace. Once a free man accustomed to the open landscapes of his homeland, he now found himself in chains, commodity to be bought and sold. Ancient sources suggest that Spartacus' physical strength and intelligence set him apart. Plutarch, a Greco-Roman historian writing centuries later, described him as a man of great spirit and physical strength, adding that he was more like a Greek than a Thracian. This statement, though laden with the biases of a Roman audience, hints at Spartacus' remarkable character. He was not merely a brute, he was a thinker, a strategist, and a leader in the making. One particularly intriguing detail comes from Plutarch's account of a prophetic vision involving Spartacus' wife, a Thracian woman described as a prophetess. According to the legend, she dreamed of a snake coiled around Spartacus' head while he slept, interpreting it as a sign of great power and impending misfortune. While this tale may be apocryphal, it reflects the mystique that surrounded Spartacus even in his own time, a warrior's spirit. To truly appreciate Spartacus' journey, one must consider the cultural legacy of the Thracians. They were a people steeped in warrior traditions, their lives often revolving around the twin poles of survival and conflict. The Thracian tribes were known for their hit-and-run tactics, their mastery of the terrain, and their ability to adapt to changing circumstances. These qualities would later become hallmarks of Spartacus' leadership. The Thracians also had a rich spiritual life, marked by their worship of gods like Dionysus, the deity of wine, ecstasy, and transformation. Some accounts suggest that Spartacus' wife was a devotee of Dionysus, adding a layer of mythic resonance to his story. The Thracians believed in the cyclical nature of life and death, a philosophy that perhaps influenced Spartacus' unwavering determination in the face of overwhelming odds. Perfect storm. By the time Spartacus was enslaved and transported to Italy, the Roman Republic was grappling with its own internal crises. The concentration of wealth among the elite had created deep social divisions, while the relentless expansion of the empire strained the republic's political systems. Slavery was both a symptom and a cause of these problems, fueling economic disparities and social unrest. The late Republic was also a time of political turbulence. Figures like Gaius Marius and Lucius Cornelius Sulla had reshaped Rome's political landscape through civil wars and reforms, leaving a legacy of instability. This volatile environment created opportunities for those bold enough to challenge the status quo. For Spartacus, it was a crucible that would forge his rebellion, foreshadowing a revolution. The story of Spartacus is not just a tale of rebellion, but also a lens through which we can view the broader dynamics of power, resistance, and survival. His early life in Thrace, shaped by the land and its people, prepared him for the challenges ahead. As a slave in Rome, he would confront a system that sought to strip him of his humanity. But Spartacus was not a man to be broken. His story was just beginning, and the seeds of his rebellion were already taking root. The revolt he would later lead was not merely a fight for freedom but a statement against the inequalities and injustices of his time. It was a moment when the downtrodden rose to challenge the might of an empire, led by a man whose name would echo through history. Spartacus' journey from a Thracian warrior to a symbol of resistance is a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who refuse to bow to oppression. Life as a gladiator and the revolt begins. The journey of Spartacus from a slave to a symbol of rebellion truly began in the brutal and unforgiving world of the Roman gladiatorial schools. These institutions, known as ludi, were paradoxical spaces, both places of unrelenting suffering and potential pathways to glory. For Spartacus, however, they were a crucible where his resilience, intelligence, and leadership were forged. The revolt that would shake the Roman Republic to its core started not in grand halls of power, but within the confines of a gladiator's barracks in the bustling town of Capua. A system of oppression. To understand the revolt's roots, we must first delve into the harsh reality of gladiatorial life in ancient Rome. Gladiators were primarily slaves, prisoners of war, or criminals condemned to fight for the entertainment of the Roman populace. The games, often bloody spectacles held in amphitheaters across the Republic, were a reflection of Rome's obsession with violence and power. They served as both a distraction for the masses and a demonstration of the state's control over life and death. The ludus, or gladiatorial school, where Spartacus was held, was managed by Lentulus Batiatus, a man whose name has become synonymous with greed and cruelty. Batiatus' school in Capua was one of the most notorious of its kind. Located in southern Italy, Capua was a major hub for training gladiators, its proximity to Rome ensuring a steady supply of fighters for the capital's games. The conditions in the ludus were harsh. Gladiators were subjected to grueling training routines, strict discipline, and the constant threat of death. Yet, they were also fed and housed relatively well, not out of kindness but to ensure they could perform at their peak in the arena. For Spartacus, the ludus was a far cry from his homeland in Thrace. But it was here that he began to understand the mechanics of Roman oppression. The ludus was a microcosm of the larger empire, a place where survival depended on strength, cunning, and the ability to inspire loyalty among one's peers. These were skills Spartacus would master and use to devastating effect. The first sparks of rebellion, the revolt, began, like so many uprisings throughout history, with a simple act of defiance. According to Plutarch, Spartacus and around 70 of his fellow gladiators plotted their escape after enduring years of abuse and humiliation. Their plan was bold and desperate. Armed with kitchen knives and improvised weapons, they overpowered the guards and broke free from the ludus. This initial breakout, though small in scale, was a symbolic act of resistance against a system that sought to dehumanize them. The escaped gladiators soon found themselves pursued by Roman authorities. Yet, under Spartacus' leadership, they quickly demonstrated an ability to outmaneuver and outfight their pursuers. One of their first major victories came when they ambushed a small Roman force sent to recapture them. The gladiators seized weapons and supplies, transforming themselves from a ragtag group of fugitives into a nascent army. What set Spartacus apart was his ability to unite a diverse group of individuals under a common cause. His followers included not only fellow gladiators but also escaped slaves, disenfranchised peasants, and others marginalized by the Roman system. Spartacus' charisma and strategic acumen turned these disparate groups into a cohesive fighting force. They began raiding Roman estates, freeing slaves, and gathering supplies, their numbers swelling with each success. The strategies of Spartacus. Spartacus' early victories were not merely the result of brute force. They were a testament to his strategic genius. One of his most remarkable achievements was his use of the terrain to his advantage. In one of the rebellion's first major engagements, Spartacus and his followers took refuge on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius, a volcanic mountain near Naples. When a Roman militia led by Gaius Claudius Glaber laid siege to their position, Spartacus devised a daring escape plan. Using vines and makeshift ropes, the rebels descended the steep cliffs at night, flanking and overwhelming the Roman forces. This victory was more than a tactical success. It was a powerful psychological blow to the Roman authorities. Word of Spartacus' defiance spread like wildfire, inspiring other slaves and oppressed individuals to join his cause. The rebellion grew from a localized uprising into a movement that threatened the very foundations of the Roman Republic. A growing army of the oppressed. As Spartacus' army grew, so too did the scope of their ambitions. The initial goal of escaping slavery transformed into a broader challenge to Roman authority. Spartacus and his followers began marching across southern Italy, liberating slaves, defeating Roman forces, and plundering the estates of the wealthy elite. Their campaign was marked by a blend of pragmatism and idealism. Spartacus sought not only to survive but to create a world where the oppressed could live free from tyranny. One of the most striking aspects of the rebellion was its inclusivity. Spartacus' army was a diverse coalition, comprising individuals from various backgrounds and regions. This diversity, while a strength, also posed challenges. Different factions within the army had differing goals and loyalties. Some sought revenge against their former masters, while others simply wanted to return home. Spartacus' ability to navigate these tensions and maintain unity was a testament to his leadership. The Roman response. The growing threat posed by Spartacus and his followers forced the Roman Senate to take action. Initially, the Roman authorities underestimated the rebellion, sending poorly trained and ill-equipped militias to suppress it. These early efforts ended in disaster, with the rebels consistently outmaneuvering and defeating their opponents. The Senate's failure to quickly suppress the uprising highlighted the vulnerabilities within the Roman system. As the rebellion gained momentum, the Senate recognized the need for a more coordinated response. They dispatched experienced generals and professional legions to confront Spartacus. Yet, even against these formidable opponents, Spartacus continued to achieve remarkable victories. His ability to adapt to changing circumstances and exploit the weaknesses of his enemies made him one of the most effective military leaders of his time. A leader of vision and resolve, Spartacus' leadership extended beyond the battlefield. He was not merely a warrior but a visionary who understood the symbolic power of his rebellion. By challenging the Roman system, he exposed the contradictions and injustices at its core. His actions forced the Roman elite to confront the reality of their reliance on slavery and the deep inequalities that permeated their society. One of the most debated aspects of Spartacus' rebellion is his ultimate goal. Some historians argue that he sought to overthrow the Roman Republic and establish a new order. Others believe his primary aim was to escape Italy and return to his homeland in Thrace. Whatever his intentions, Spartacus' actions resonated far beyond his own time, inspiring future generations to challenge oppression and fight for justice. The revolt led by Spartacus was unlike any other in Roman history. It was not merely a rebellion of slaves but a broader social movement that highlighted the fractures within Roman society. As his army grew and the stakes rose, Spartacus faced increasingly difficult challenges. The Roman response became more organized and ruthless, setting the stage for a climactic struggle. The rise of Spartacus' army. From the fiery spark of rebellion in Capua to the roaring flames of a movement that shook the Roman Republic to its core, the rise of Spartacus' army was nothing short of extraordinary. The gladiator's escape had not only defied his captors but also challenged the very foundation of Roman society. This phase of Spartacus' life, leading a coalition of the oppressed, would see him transform from a fugitive to the leader of a force so formidable that it made the Senate tremble. Yet, this rise was not merely a series of battles. It was a story of strategy, leadership, and the hopes of tens of thousands. A diverse army forged by hope. The initial group of escapees from Lentulus Batiatus Ludus in Capua numbered fewer than 100. These gladiators, armed with little more than stolen kitchen knives and the fire of desperation, quickly grew their ranks. Word of their escape spread across southern Italy, inspiring slaves and disenfranchised citizens to join them. Within weeks, Spartacus' band swelled to thousands. It was no longer merely a group of fugitives but a burgeoning army. What made Spartacus' army unique was its diversity. It included Thracians, Gauls, Germans, Italians, and others. Each group brought its own traditions, fighting styles, and grievances against Rome. For many, Spartacus symbolized the possibility of liberation in a world dominated by oppression. Under his leadership, individuals who had once been divided by language, culture, and background found a common purpose. This diversity, however, was both a strength and a challenge. Spartacus' ability to maintain unity among his followers was a testament to his leadership. He fostered a sense of shared destiny, framing their struggle as one of the oppressed against the oppressors. But the differences among his followers also created tensions, as not all shared the same vision for the revolt. While some dreamed of revenge against their Roman masters, others sought to escape Italy entirely and return to their homelands. Spartacus walked a delicate tightrope, balancing these competing interests while keeping his army cohesive. Spartacus' early campaigns. One of Spartacus' most remarkable traits was his strategic brilliance. Despite lacking formal military training, he displayed a keen understanding of both tactics and logistics. His early campaigns demonstrated an ability to exploit Roman weaknesses while maximizing the strengths of his army. After their breakout, Spartacus and his followers moved through the fertile plains of Campania, targeting isolated villas and estates. These raids not only provided them with food, weapons, and supplies but also served as a rallying cry for other slaves to join their cause. The rebellion's momentum grew with each victory. One of the first major challenges came in the form of Gaius Claudius Glaber, a Roman praetor dispatched with a militia to suppress the uprising. Glaber underestimated the rebels, viewing them as little more than a disorganized mob. Spartacus, however, had other plans. Taking advantage of the terrain, he led his army to the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. When Glaber's forces attempted to lay siege to the mountain, Spartacus devised a daring escape. Using vines and makeshift ropes, his army descended the cliffs at night, flanking and routing the Roman forces. This victory was not just a tactical success but a psychological one. It shattered the perception of slave rebellions as minor, localized uprisings. Spartacus' triumph over Glaber sent shockwaves through the Republic, emboldening his followers and striking fear into the hearts of his enemies. Building an army. By the winter of 73 BCE, Spartacus' army had grown to tens of thousands. These numbers included not only former slaves but also free peasants, disenfranchised laborers, and even deserters from the Roman military. Each addition brought new skills and resources, transforming the rebellion into a force capable of challenging Rome's legions. One of Spartacus' key strengths as a leader was his ability to adapt. He recognized that his army, while growing in size, lacked the discipline and training of Rome's professional soldiers. To address this, he implemented a rigorous training regimen. Drawing on his experience as a gladiator, Spartacus emphasized physical conditioning, discipline, and the use of weapons. He also organized his forces into smaller units, each led by trusted lieutenants such as Crixus and Gannicus. This structure allowed his army to remain flexible and responsive, even in the heat of battle. Spartacus also understood the importance of logistics. Unlike many other slave revolts, which were short-lived due to a lack of resources, his army was remarkably self-sufficient. They secured supplies through raids, established temporary camps, and utilized the support of local populations. This logistical prowess enabled the rebellion to sustain itself for years.
Defy promesse expectation.
The consular campaigns. By 72 BCE, the Senate could no longer ignore the growing threat posed by Spartacus. The initial efforts to suppress the rebellion had failed spectacularly, and it was clear that more drastic measures were needed. The Senate dispatched two consular armies, led by Lucius Gellius Publicola and Gnaeus Cornelius Lentulus Clodianus, to confront the rebels. The consul strategy was to divide and conquer, hoping to encircle Spartacus' forces and crush them in a coordinated assault. However, Spartacus anticipated their plans. In a series of brilliant maneuvers, he defeated each consul separately, exploiting their inability to coordinate effectively. These victories further cemented his reputation as a master strategist and demoralized the Roman forces. One of the most significant battles during this period took place near the Apennine Mountains. Spartacus' army, though outnumbered, used the rugged terrain to their advantage. By luring the Romans into narrow passes and ambushing them, the rebels achieved another decisive victory. This battle demonstrated Spartacus' ability to think strategically and capitalize on the overconfidence of his enemies. The march north. Despite his successes, Spartacus understood that his army's long-term survival depended on more than just defeating Roman forces. He began to explore the possibility of escaping Italy altogether. According to ancient sources, his plan was to lead his followers northward, cross the Alps, and disperse into the lands beyond Roman control. For many of his followers, particularly the Gauls and Germans, this represented a chance to return to their homelands. The march north was a monumental undertaking. Spartacus' army moved through the Italian countryside, defeating Roman forces and liberating slaves as they went. This journey was not without its challenges. The diverse composition of his army, while a strength in some respects, also led to internal divisions. Crixus, one of Spartacus' key lieutenants, disagreed with the plan to leave Italy and instead advocated for continuing the fight against Rome. This disagreement ultimately led to a split, with Crixus and his followers breaking off from the main army. The split proved costly. Crixus' forces, numbering several thousand, were intercepted and defeated by Roman forces. While Spartacus mourned the loss of his comrades, he used their fate as a rallying cry, strengthening the resolve of his remaining followers. The march north continued, marked by both triumphs and sacrifices, a growing threat to Rome. By the time Spartacus reached the northern regions of Italy, his army had become a significant threat to the Republic. The Senate, recognizing the severity of the situation, began mobilizing additional legions. Prominent generals were recalled from other campaigns to address the rebellion. Among them was Marcus Licinius Crassus, a wealthy and ambitious figure who would play a decisive role in the conflict. Spartacus faced a difficult decision. While the Alps offered a potential escape route, the growing strength of the Roman forces made any movement increasingly risky. Some ancient sources suggest that Spartacus considered turning south again, perhaps in a bid to reach Sicily or another safe haven. Whatever his intentions, it was clear that the rebellion had reached a critical juncture. The legacy of leadership. Spartacus' rise as a leader was not just a story of military success, but also a testament to his ability to inspire and unite. His army was more than a collection of fighters. It was a community bound by shared experiences and a common goal. Spartacus embodied the hopes and dreams of his followers, becoming a symbol of resistance against an oppressive system. As the rebellion reached its peak, the stakes grew higher. Spartacus' decisions in the coming months would determine the fate of his army and the legacy of their struggle. The next phase of the story would see the rebellion face its greatest challenges yet, as Rome unleashed its full might to crush the uprising. The fall and legacy of Spartacus. The rebellion of Spartacus had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What began as a desperate escape from a gladiatorial school had turned into a full-fledged war against the might of the Roman Republic. As his army marched across Italy, liberating slaves and defeating Roman forces, Spartacus became a symbol of resistance. But even as his legend grew, the tide was beginning to turn. Rome, with its vast resources and military prowess, was preparing to bring the full weight of its power to bear. The final chapters of Spartacus' rebellion would be marked by both extraordinary feats of courage and the crushing reality of defeat. The shift in Roman strategy. By late 72 BCE, the Roman Senate had recognized that the rebellion could no longer be dismissed as a mere uprising. The defeats of consular armies at the hands of Spartacus' forces had exposed the vulnerability of the Republic. In response, the Senate appointed Marcus Licinius Crassus to lead the campaign against Spartacus. Crassus, one of the wealthiest and most ambitious men in Rome, was determined to crush the rebellion and claim the glory for himself. Crassus brought a new level of discipline and strategy to the Roman response. He reorganized his legions and implemented harsh measures to ensure loyalty and effectiveness. One of his most infamous tactics was decimation, the execution of 1 in every 10 soldiers in units that showed cowardice in battle. While brutal, these measures restored discipline and instilled fear in his troops. Crassus understood that defeating Spartacus required not just superior numbers but also unwavering resolve. The final campaigns. Spartacus, aware of the growing threat posed by Crassus, sought to keep his army mobile. He abandoned his plans to cross the Alps and instead turned his sights southward, possibly aiming to reach Sicily. Ancient sources suggest that Spartacus hoped to reignite the flames of rebellion by joining forces with the island's oppressed population. Sicily, with its history of servile wars, seemed like a natural refuge for the rebel army. However, this plan faced significant obstacles. Spartacus attempted to negotiate with Cilician pirates to secure transport across the Strait of Messina, but the pirates betrayed him. Left stranded in southern Italy, Spartacus and his followers were forced to confront the reality of their situation. With Crassus' legions closing in and no escape route available, the rebels prepared for a final stand. The Battle of the Salarius River. The decisive battle of the Third Servile War took place near the Salarius River, modern-day Seal River, in 71 BCE. Crassus, determined to end the rebellion, deployed his legions to encircle Spartacus' forces. The rebel army, though still formidable, was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Spartacus, refusing to surrender, rallied his followers for one last fight. The accounts of the battle vary, but all agree on the extraordinary courage displayed by Spartacus and his army. Plutarch describes how Spartacus, realizing the inevitability of defeat, killed his own horse before the battle, declaring that he would either win on foot or die as a free man. Leading a desperate charge, Spartacus fought valiantly, cutting through Roman lines in an attempt to reach Crassus himself. Though he failed to reach the Roman general, his bravery became the stuff of legend. The rebel army was ultimately overwhelmed. Thousands of Spartacus followers were killed or captured. Spartacus himself fell in battle, his body never recovered. The surviving rebels faced a grim fate. Crassus ordered the crucifixion of 6,000 prisoners along the Appian Way, a chilling reminder of Rome's power and the consequences of defiance. The aftermath. The suppression of the rebellion marked a turning point in Roman history. For Crassus, the victory solidified his position as one of Rome's leading figures. He would go on to form the first triumvirate with Julius Caesar and Pompey, shaping the political landscape of the late Republic. However, his role in the rebellion's suppression was overshadowed by Pompey, who arrived with reinforcements after the final battle and claimed credit for mopping up the remnants of the rebel forces. For Rome, the rebellion underscored the dangers posed by its reliance on slavery. While the Third Servile War did not lead to immediate changes, it highlighted the vulnerabilities within the Republic's social and economic systems. Over time, the fear of further uprisings contributed to a gradual shift toward the use of free labor, particularly in the provinces. The legacy of Spartacus. Though his rebellion was ultimately crushed, Spartacus left an indelible mark on history. His story became a symbol of resistance against oppression, inspiring countless movements and individuals across centuries. From the Haitian Revolution to modern struggles for justice, Spartacus' name has been invoked as a rallying cry for the downtrodden. In popular culture, Spartacus has been immortalized in literature, film, and television. The 1960 film Spartacus, starring Kirk Douglas, brought his story to a global audience, emphasizing themes of freedom and dignity. More recent adaptations, such as the television series Spartacus, Blood and Sand, have continued to explore his legacy, blending historical fact with dramatic fiction. The story of Spartacus is not just a tale of rebellion. It is a lens through which we can examine the broader dynamics of power, resistance, and survival. His life and actions raise fundamental questions about the nature of freedom and the price of defiance. While his cause was ultimately doomed, the spirit of his rebellion endures, reminding us of the enduring human desire for justice and equality. As we look back on Spartacus' story, we are reminded of the complexities of history. He was not merely a hero or a villain, but a man shaped by his circumstances, driven by a vision of a better world. His legacy challenges us to reflect on our own struggles and aspirations, urging us to confront the injustices of our time with courage and determination.